Welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm Denise Smith of our Mettaverse, and I'm super grateful for this wonderful sunshine and heat today. I think actually we might all be in the same state this time. And so I'm hoping that you're experiencing some of this warmth as well. It's a really special experience for me to be able to get together and do this facilitation of some topics that I have lots and lots of passion for, and that you come and that you share this with me means the world to me. It's like the best gift ever. So thank you for being here so much. I think rather than me sharing an intention and motivation, we've done some where we just set the room for everybody, set the space for everybody to set their own intention and their own motivation for being here. So I just want to give us a couple seconds to just calm ourselves, try to arrive together, try to take a couple of breaths, try to shut off everything else that's been going on in our life or going on today. And just set our motivation. I mean, our intention, we're going to get together. There's our action and we're here. What's our motivation for the time that we're going to spend together right now? And then I'm going to encourage us to have it be an altruistic motivation. Maybe we're feeding ourselves so that we can feed somebody else, so that we can give. Somehow, let's try to set an altruistic motivation. And then when you're ready, just come on back. So I picked generosity tonight for us to talk about, and it's such a really interesting and tricky subject. So what's his name? Yongey Mingyur Rinpoche. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's this monk that teaches some real fundamentals of different types of lessons, and he expresses that the essence of generosity is letting go. So it's the mind of letting go. And that one kind of struck me, that it's not necessarily the mind of giving that creates this super powerful energy for ourselves and for the other. It's with the mind of letting go of attachment, of clinging, that we give, that we are generous. We let go of the outcome. We let go of an expectation in return. It's just with the mind of letting go. And when we see it as a beneficial action, that we are generous, and that creates the best karma, one might say, or energy or result. And we usually have a mind of clinging when we think about it, right? This is my computer I'm looking at right now. This is not a computer, and I might not be really willing to just let it go. So it would have to be really considered before I thought, oh, with the mind of letting go, I'm going to, I want to be generous. I want to earn good karma. And then some people give away everything that they've got. And then they're in a situation now where they are in a non-beneficial place. And so we have to consider how we benefit as many parties involved when we do the exercise of generosity. sometimes what we are attached to is our ego, which is, if I give, I'll get to look great. that will stoke my ego a little bit. I'll like myself better, which is this tricky line, right? Yes, we want to like ourselves. Yes, we want to feel good in the actions that we do. And if the motivation is there in a pure motivation that's altruistic, we will most probably receive that benefit. But if it's our intention to give so that we look good, that's actually considered a selfish action. It's not considered generosity. So if we don't let go of selfishness, and we're helping and we're doing something for somebody else, and it ends up for the sake of us looking good, who can give me an example of what something like that might look like or might be?
Sorry, can you say that question again?
You're giving, but you're kind of giving to feed yourself a little bit.
Well, I think of the big donations that wealthy people sometimes make to universities or museums or hospitals, right? You sometimes wonder, like, is this purely altruistic, or is it because they're going to have their name emblazoned across a prestigious location? You know, so I think for a lot of them it is just sheer generosity, but I think others, you know, they're happy to spend $50 million if it means their name, you know, a new music building at a prestigious university gets named after them, for instance.
Yes, good one, Kevin. Your internet is still getting a little spotty.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's not
I'm
much.
okay with it for right now. I'm okay with it as long as you can hear. Can you think of anything, Marie, where we you know, we haven't really been taught the differences between generosity? We're just giving, but we don't really think about it.
Well, I mean, also I was thinking kind of along the lines of what Kevin was saying about people that have a lot of money. They will give, you know, to, you know, lots of money away, not just because it makes them look good or get their name on it, because it's a giant tax break as well. So anyway, that's not important, but I'm trying to think of something within myself. I know there's some tricky things, you know, and that's an example of somebody else, but it's sometimes hard to think of the ones within ourselves, because I know that there's things that I do because I do want them to create connection, and I'm very generous with things, but I also then I do kind of expect it in return for people to be generous in return, and not everybody's like that. So it's like that expectation is not a good thing for me to have, because not everybody operates that way, you know what I mean? So for me to be clear with myself on why I'm doing it, and I really like to be generous because, first of all, in my life, I feel like I have a lot of abundance. And so to me, abundance means there's plenty for everyone. I don't know. I mean, I just feel that way. And sometimes I don't always feel that way about money. Sometimes I get a little bit like, oh, I don't know if I have enough. But then I realize that, you know what, as things turn out, there is. But I feel like I have so much. And then I just want to create a balance around that, as far as just, you know, not over giving to the point where it's just ridiculous and you're just throwing, you know, because that makes people feel weird too. And it's kind of off balance. That's what I mean about the balance. There's a balance there where you can feel good about it, they can feel good about it, and it creates a connection, and it also creates sharing. So there's a thing there. But I'm sure there's plenty of times when I've been generous to people because I would like something in return also, you know what I mean? So I really have to watch that. I'm not exempt from that, you know. I mean, I think I'm a good person, but I also know that sometimes we do things for our own reasons, you know what I mean? So there are, I don't know, I can't think of a specific example, but I know it's there. I can feel it, you know what I mean? You feel it when you're doing things, but you know, and you by nature are a very generous person. So, but, and I don't really see a lot of expectation on your end, you know. So I think
You're
something
not my mom. No.
that's true. And we have we're similar, let's just say that. We both are very
What?
open, we have abundance. We have a lot of abundance, and we like to share with people and with each
Yeah.
other. So
Yeah.
we don't always
And-
expect this kind of and
Sometimes as we're getting that high of generosity, we have to stop and question ourselves.
yeah.
Is this for me that I'm doing this? So somebody sees me look, generous, or is this for somebody else that I'm doing this? And my example, the reason why I say not my mom is because I'm like, I give my mom a present, so she gives me one.
Or just so they won't be mad at you, right?
Or so they won't be mad at me. That's like, right?
Or like, yeah, you know what I mean? There's things like obligation type stuff too, just like the Mother's Day card, right? Like you don't give the Mother's Day
come up
card
on Mother's Day right now.
Okay. So there's those kind of weird obligations too, but I like the whole thing where it benefits both. So I kind of like that balance, that thing where it doesn't always have to be so intrinsic or whatever you want to call it, that you're just the selfless, which we'd all like to be that way, but sometimes it's nice to have that balance when you can feel good and they can feel good. And I think that could be pretty healthy,
And that brings up this perfect kind of, it's really hard to get that balance. And to, here we are, I'm going to bring back the log. Here we are being a log because we're not sure, right? If I do this, is it for me? Is it for the other person? I don't know. Until I know, I'm not going to do anything. Okay, now I'm going to do, okay, now if I do it like this, that will be for them and me. And there won't be a funny feeling as far as I can intend and plan and act upon. I won't have an expectation. And so now I know to act, right? And to do that, we need a little bit of awareness. So if we just give and do and feel and go, and we don't stop and ask ourselves with awareness, wait a minute, why am I doing this? What am I wanting? Or finish giving something, somebody receives it, and we notice, what, that was totally for my own benefit right there. I was trying to create something. So let me just lay this out there in all truth. I'd like this from you. I'm really happy to give you something in return for that.
Yeah, couldn't we just be more forthright about that? I really want that, and I'll give you this if you give it to
right.
me.
Is there something we can work out so that I can get that thing that I want?
So it's a win-win, right?
Right. So we can create these kind of better scenarios with awareness. What is my motivation behind this? Is my motivation altruistic? If it's not altruistic and it is a little self-serving, I can be forthcoming with it to say, I kind of need this right now. And it's beautiful to be generous with ourselves, right? Where we get caught is when we want something from somebody else. So desire is the basis for all non-beneficial mental activity. Wanting, right? Opposite of desiring something is being satisfied. So if we don't want for something and cling to that thing, it's not that we sacrifice ourselves and just sit there with nothing and think everything is great, but we work through time and practicing. I don't need that 5th pair of black pants with 2 pockets in the back, maybe, or whatever it might be. We ask ourselves, is this necessary? Is this beneficial? Is this the best thing that I can be doing with taking, attaching, or giving? Am I creating? And it's just bringing this awareness. Now, one thing that I think is really cool about generosity is it's considered one of the 6, well, this is in Buddhism, it's considered one of the 6 far-reaching perfections. So why is it called that? if we are generous, I want to give you the example of Lama Zopa again. If we are generous in the right way, in a pure altruistic way, where we are cared for and we are generous, when we practice that enough, that is one of the traits that takes us all the way to enlightenment. There are many beneficial things we can do, but when we perfect them, we're still not enlightened necessarily. But it's one of the 6 perfections that gets us that whole path. If we do these, I don't really know the other 6 off the top of my head right now, but it's one of those 6. So it's just kind of interesting to go, understanding generosity, being wise around generosity really has these benefits. Now, for me, I'm kind of a non-religious vernacular. I look at enlightenment almost in a visual way, right? If I did something in my life that created a bad feeling towards somebody, what does it do? It weighs on me, right? If I can figure out a way to purify that, get that off of me, I become lighter. And so an enlightened being is kind of like taking all of the little pieces that were in them that did not create beautiful, positive things to the world and finds a way to purify them, they say, or alleviate themselves of those. There's a reference of carrying rocks in a bag is what they feel like. And it's kind of like, okay, you rock, I fixed you, you're out. Next one, you're out. Now, so I'm completely light. And the other part of that I think I got to experience from Lama Zopa is when we are that light, we've got the capability of loving with this unbelievable warmth that can transform another person, even if temporarily, till they go, I have been completely accepted. I think it's the heroine of nature, right? I did a lot of studying of addiction and of heroin addiction. And with that, it's this, I'm loved, I'm okay, I'm accepted feeling that heroin might give somebody, which is why they choose to go there. And so what if they could get a high as absolutely powerful as heroin and for a longer term? Pretty amazing. Pretty enlightening. On that note, they talk about what we can give. Let me go down here in some notes. And one of the things that we can give is a material item, right? Feels good to get a material item. Sometimes, if it's given right with pureness, right? But I can give you a book. Here's a beautiful journal, write in this journal. I think you're going to like the journal. Here's a pencil that I think you can use. Here's a material item. Can you think of things that are things you can give?
You mean things that are not material items?
Anything. What can we be generous
your
with?
time and your presence. To me, that's super valuable. When you were talking about gifts, I was like, it doesn't, you know what I mean? To me, that's not important anymore, like having someone's full attention and their time and their presence. I think that's probably the best gift you can give someone. I mean, at least for me, I guess, I feel like that with other people, and probably our children especially, but that's just,
So I'm going to absolutely encourage that it is said you're correct, that is the best gift you could give somebody. and the visual that I learned from Thomas Hübl, H-U-B-L, teaches, we did this last week a little bit, that when you're reaching out, I'm going to do the visual this way. When you're reaching out to somebody with your presence and your time, and somebody comes back recognizing that effort, what he uses as the words are, I feel you feeling me. That's so special. I feel you feeling me. It brings my whole being into life. When I can feel you feeling me.
Yeah, like a connection. That's almost like a heart coherence connection, like a real connection, right? That's
yes. And in that, it is said both medically and spiritually, in that place is where all healing occurs, even the worst of all traumas. Now I'm going to bring us back a step and say, imagine that we say, I'm going to reach to you with some feeling, right? I'm going to feel towards you, and it gets met with nothing. Ouch. And yet, how many times, even in one day, do we reach towards somebody or another human being and even try for that connection? And it just doesn't come back. Oh, another rock in the bag, right?
Yeah. And then also on another level, I think some people aren't available or know how to really feel that way or do that kind of a thing. So it's not necessarily that they don't want to. I think a lot of people want to. I think a lot of people are scared to, and I think a lot of people don't know how to. So they just don't, so they just freeze up. But I don't think it's because they don't feel it or they don't have love to give, really. I think it's because people are afraid, or they they think they're going to do it wrong, or it seems too vulnerable, or it seems too soft, or something, right? Everything's too something, right? Always everyone's judging themselves, and oh my God, it's going to be taken wrong, or I just have to everyone puts up this front or this thing. So it's really hard to find two people that are going to be able to feel into each other. That's very vulnerable. And then you're going to need to, they're both going to need to be okay with that. You know what I mean? Like in most people, if you said, I feel you feeling me, they're like, oh, you're feeling my butt, you're like, no, I feel you feeling me, you know what I mean? They're like, where are you feeling me? Like, I'm not feeling it. No, I feel it's not that. You're like, no, that's not what I mean. Because that's most people, that's what that means. But to people talking about understanding the human, the heart coherence of the human being and being understood and being felt and all of that stuff, that's what that means. So you'd have to have a person that is not, how would you say that?
Is not hurt.
Knowledgeable or able to access that.
Is not too hurt to let the love override the fear. Right?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful point. And that's really, to get those two humans who can be like that is very infrequent, and that's why probably it is so healing,
right?
And if somebody has had a lifetime of not trusting the humans that they have reached out for, and then a new human comes along and tries to make that connection, it might not be accessible. And that's another generosity point, right? That's where we have to be willing to say, I'm going to reach out to you, and whatever happens, I'm going to be responsible for on my own. That's when we start to reach emotional maturity, is when we can say, I'd like to attempt the give. If it's not met with something, I'm going to be responsible for my emotions, and I'm going to warm, nurture, heal, connect with somebody who I know can connect with me instead, right? And go, somebody told me one time, go get my coins to put in my purse from somebody I know who can put more coins in my purse. And then I'm going to come out and attempt to give out another coin. But it would be something we have to be really aware of again, that if we keep attempting to give our coin and be generous to somebody who doesn't give our coin back or give something else back, we're going to end up with this empty purse. And now we become the one that needs the generosity rather than can probably give it. It's so deep and dynamic, the subject of generosity.
Mm-hmm.
Heaven?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is giving with no expectation of getting back is yeah, that's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to sort of get to that point, because I think all of us have a little bit of self-centeredness left in us, no matter how much self-work we've done.
Mm-hmm.
And we feel like if we give something to somebody else, that demonstrates that we're a good person and surely we deserve something in return. But you don't always get something in return. Yeah. I don't have any profound insights for you tonight. That's all I got.
We don't need to judge it, right? It's just what's coming up while we're discussing this.
Yeah.
What's coming up for us as we feel this. And
Yeah.
then here's, do you have something else, Marie?
Oh, I was just going to say, I just appreciate your honesty and just being, that's very true what you're saying. And there's all of us have that. Well, we also have that self-preservation and all these things we have to do. And so sometimes it's very hard to keep giving and not getting anything in return. Although sometimes we don't, because in life we have this exchange balance kind of thing. So it, you like she said, you don't want to, like Denise was pointing out, you don't want to keep giving out your coins and then you have none. However, we also don't want to always give with expectations. So there's kind of it's a tricky balance, right? It's a tricky balance, but we all do have self-preservation in mind, because that's part of, I think that's not a unwise thing. To self-care, self-preservation, all those things are wise to yourself, like that's part of survival. So it's just that you're honest about that is really good, and I like that. I like that about you.
Thank you.
I was in a class that taught me how easy it is to give of things we don't need. Oh, really? You could have this pencil because I got 25 other ones. Right? Or things that aren't that special to us. Yeah, you could have that other one. Like, I know I can go buy another one. Things that are special to us. There's our attachment again. What does it feel like when somebody asks us for something that's really special to us that we might not have a whole bunch of them?
My first thought is, do they like it as much as I do? I don't know.
Right. How do we know?
I don't know. But I'm thinking, why would I, if it's, I know that sounds stupid, but that was my first thought. Like if it's something really special to them and they're like, oh, I just want to have that. And I'm like, do you really like mangoes as much as I do? I don't know. That's stupid, but that's a human thing, right? It's like, what's your decision going to be based on? Is it going to be based on this? Doesn't matter. Does it even matter if they like it or not? I guess it's not up to us to decide.
Right? It's special.
Ask, right? It's
special to us.
Yeah.
The example I have of this one was, I had a doll collection for my whole life. It was a Madame Alexander doll collection. And my mom gave me, like, my third birthday, I got one, and my fourth birthday, my fifth birthday. And I had probably 30 of these dolls. and I had them in a doll case, and I had them in a doll case no matter where I lived, even going through school and moving into my own places, and with, like, they were never in storage. And there's this doll case sitting in my bedroom, and I'm 50 years old. And it's this thing I just look at, and I live in a very small house. And I finally just, like, out of the effort, the intention of generosity, I called my cousin, whose mother was a Madame Alexander doll fanatic, and he now had 2 daughters. And I asked him, would you like my Madame Alexander doll collection? And he was over the moon. I probably got a couple of the dolls from his mom, who's no longer with us. And here I had been holding these things. Now, the reason we talk about attachment a little bit is because, in all honesty, it was really difficult to find a place for these dolls to live all the time. You know, they took up this huge dresser worth of space and it wasn't necessarily doing anything more than causing me worry to have these dolls. Am I taking care of them? When my mom comes over, is she going to see that the door's always closed and there's no dust on them? And it's all right. What we feel like is bringing us joy, when we really look at it, is not the essence of where joy comes from. It does not come from these things outside of us. Not long-term joy. Long-term joy comes from a whole lot of these. And knowing that when we're afraid, there's this other human. And knowing that when we're feeling lonely, we can pick up the phone. Thank you both for being somebody like that. Right?
Yeah.
My dolls can never take place of my opportunity to pick up the phone and call you guys. So it's really interesting how we can trick ourselves a little bit. Even I had a Beanie Baby collection. And we have a friend who's a therapist, and she was helping out some children that were suicidal. And I said, they need this Beanie Baby collection much more than I do. And to this day, my son gives me a hard time. They were worth this much money. And do you see how much the princess doll is worth these days? And I just still have to believe, under all circumstances, that those children needed those dolls more than I did. So we get better with time, right? We ask ourselves, now, how about money? Like you brought up money. Mm-hmm. We all need money. Mm-hmm. When is it right to give? One of my teachers said, if we have $20 to be able to give, and our intention is to give that $20 and to express generosity with that $20, the second question is, how many people can we benefit with what we have to give? And that's a responsibility of ours. Which takes us into the wise generosity category, rather than the generosity to the point that one person bleeds us dry, right? Mm-hmm. We need something in return because we're human. We can't, unless we're an enlightened being of some sort, or God, or something in the universe beyond something that I've got any realization of, that give and take is really necessary. That coin in each purse is really necessary. So we have to catch ourselves when one person is draining all of our resources. Mm-hmm. And then define, I'm here to give you up to this. And then I need to go take care of me. And I may be able to come back and be generous again. I need to keep taking care of me. And here's the beautiful part. We show an example of how they need to take care of them. That they don't need to keep bleeding themselves of every resource they have for others either. And this is how they do it. I can give you until this, and then I need to give me so that I can be available again. So it's pretty nice. I have in our presence, right? Our presence is our present. That's our ultimate present. So can we give our presence indefinitely? No, that's called self-sacrifice. Right? To the amount we're capable, we can give our presence, and then we need to create that boundary again. All right, thanks. So let's get into a comfortable position for ourselves where we've got, hopefully as nice of a straight spine as we can have. And we can imagine that somehow that top of our head where the sun might be able to reach the most is kind of lifted up gently with love, helping us keep that nice straight spine all the way down to our sits bones in some comfortable way. And then let's take 3 nice, slow, maybe 5 seconds on an inhale and 5 seconds on an exhale breath through our nose. And then let's try to really just settle into this moment right here, letting go of everything else. And just be right here, leaving everything behind. I'd like you to invite you to recall your motivation that you set at the beginning of this. And when you're ready, think of someone who did something for you that just felt so considerate. And try to think of the details around it. Where were you? Was there anything that led up to this moment? And in their expression of generosity, what did they give? And how did it feel to be the receiver of this generosity? Was it all positive? Maybe was there something in it that caused the, ooh, am I obligated, or can I allow myself this consideration they're showing me? How did it cause your body to feel? Was it more tense or more relaxed? What part of your body felt this consideration, this generosity? Or parts? Is that feeling you got a feeling you would like to give? Could you allow yourself to be open to the generosity of others more? And is there a way that you could express generosity that you haven't thought of before? Just allowing yourself to reflect on this for a couple more minutes. And whenever you're ready, come back and join us. Take your time.
Mm.
How was that?
It's pretty relaxing.
Was there anything that came up for either of you that you'd like to share?
Well, I was just thinking of something that happened today because that was the most recent, and I was just I was getting really stressed out, and my sister could really tell that it was starting to really like affect my nervous system. I was very getting tense, and I was having a hard time talking, and we had a lot of we did a lot of talking and walking today, and we both had some emotional things. We talked out and cried and this and that. So there was a lot of stuff going on, emotional stuff. And then she just said, I'd like to give you a massage.
Hmm.
At the end, and that was just like maybe about, I don't know, maybe 2 hours ago. And she's really not doing that well herself. I mean, I was really struggling with some mental stuff, some emotional stuff, and she just said, because that's part of what she does for her work, but she hasn't been doing any of that because she's not been well. But she has that gift of healing with her hands, and so she just said, I'd like to give you a massage. And I think, that was really nice, and it felt, at first I was kind of like, I don't know, I just needed to kind of shake off all the things we talked about. But then I was like, okay. And so, she did that, and she gave me about like a 20 to 30-minute massage, so on my neck and back and everything, and used some wonderful oils. And that was really a gift, and it really calmed my nervous system down, and it just changed my whole mood. And even though I don't know if that was super easy for her to do because she's not, been herself lately, but I think she knew that I needed some sort of support. I'd been supporting her for a long time, and she could see that I was the one that needed support. You know what I mean? And so that was really nice for me today. So I felt that.
Did it feel like this?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Very popular.
yeah. So that was a really nice thing today, and it just kind of balanced me out a little bit because I was starting to get a little jacked up, I was just there's been a lot going on since I've been here, and very emotional and very frustrating and very challenging. All of these things that I'm struggling, with, all things that, I mean, and because it's my sister, of course, there's all this family dynamic stuff coming up and old wounds and family sibling stuff and, just the whole thing. You know how it goes. It's just been really challenging. So to just have someone just recognize that and say, you know what, I want to do this for you. And it was very simple. It wasn't like a big deal. It was just like, I mean, it's a big deal to me because it felt good, but you know what I mean? It was just a simple act of doing something and recognizing that that's what somebody needed at the time. So I think that's, yeah.
A lot of people's worst suffering is the inability to give. Right. One of Lama Yeshe, one of the teachers I study about, had something in his biography that said that there was this woman that was just couldn't lift herself up, just couldn't get herself out of this. And he just said, we need to talk about that later. My garden is dying. I know you know how to do this. Come with me. And just put her in charge of the garden.
Yeah.
It gave her something all day long to do. And she just made this most beautiful garden. And she ended up forgetting about all this stuff.
Yeah. When you're doing something outside of yourself and doing something for another thing, right? So that's, yeah.
And the garden was almost like it was still too hard to do with another person for her. But it was something that was in benefit of everybody that was there. They were eating this food from this garden,
That's cool.
Kind of cool. Okay.
So Marie, what you said resonated with me because last weekend my sister and my niece were over, and I don't know exactly what you're going through, but I've been going through some rough spots myself, and it was just good to have my sister and my niece here to provide me some support. And the highlight of the weekend, this was really interesting. We took a drive over Highway 9 over to Santa Cruz, and on one of the access roads to Highway 9, they had shut down the road temporarily because they were doing some brush clearing. And so my niece, who plays the ukulele and is very gregarious, she stepped out of the car and started playing the ukulele, and people in other passengers in other cars got out, and we all just started dancing, and it was like an impromptu ukulele party. It was really fun.
So cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Spontaneous.
Yeah, it was. I've got a video of it.
That's so.
Yeah, it was really awesome.
Wow, what a way to change. I mean, change the whole energy of what's happening, right? And just to make the best of something that's seems not so great, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, the construction guy whose job it was to hold the stop sign, he brought the stop sign over and he stood by us, and he was also listening.
Oh, cute.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So it really reached everyone, it sounds like, that kind of the energy that she had and that went on with that kind of reached everybody around her, which was
exactly
awesome, right?
I love you guys' shares with this. I love them. And right, sometimes we just need to go, imagine the last time somebody did something for me, and then just give it a whole lot of room.
Right.
Because we end up, it feels to me, and you can tell me how it might feel to you or acknowledge it or say that doesn't make sense, but it feels to me when we have these emotions that are easy to process, they just go shooting through us, right? And then when we have the emotion of confusion or difficulty or I don't know what else, well, it tends to stick there until we can figure it out. And so they last longer, these ones that aren't so beautiful. And I want to kind of go, hit the brakes right here. That felt amazing when that happened. You know, and give it some room and allow that space to go.
Yeah.
I know you're here, but you're here too. So let's do this dance of good and bad equally,
Mhm.
and not let that negativity take over.
Yeah, like hang on to that a little bit more, like the fact that you mentioned it, and then now that we're kind of celebrating a little bit, kind of brought it
Mhm.
back to life and really giving it that space and energy that it deserves to keep living a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
You can even
Yeah.
relive it by thanking your niece or saying, wow, that was really cool the way you did that, or I don't, you know what I mean? And that's a little bit of giving it a little more credit, because it deserves more credit, right? Than just, ooh, it happened.
Giving it more energy so it continues to grow, right?
Yeah.
And that idea grows. Beautiful. Really good. I think this was as enlightening for me as anybody else here. I like,
Yeah, thank you, Denise.
none of this can go on alone. Well, unless you're a super good meditator.
Mm.
My imagination is not that good. Hearing your stories and hearing what we all are experiencing is just so special. So thank
Mhm.
you for reflecting on the idea of generosity with me.
Mhm.
I'd like to, I want to mention that when we give somebody something that could harm them, that's not generosity.
Mm.
It's really specific in all of the readings that it's not generosity to give somebody something that could harm them. So to really think about that, to give
Oh, could you give an example of that maybe?
a gun,
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
drugs,
Pretty straightforward, yeah.
yeah, like, no, something that's going to be used in a harmful way, right? Those are really clear ones.
Mhm.
But you know, somebody might think that they're going to feel better by doing a drug or something,
Mhm.
but we know that that's not necessarily,
Mhm.
so that maybe we're not going to be the provider of that for them.
Mhm.
We'll just work on being generous with our patients and understanding they might think they need that right now, but we're not going to be the one providing it.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That's another part of our wisdom, that we just have to feel like, is this the right thing right here? So it wouldn't consider to carry the energy of generosity if it could harm somebody.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So may we all be wise around our generosity and think about things that we can do with our time. Now, one of the things that gets really tricky that I just want to say before we finish up is, one of the things we can give with is called our body. And it's so easy for us to take that into a really dark place. And I want to invite the idea in our own minds that when somebody considers the giving of their body, that when it's pure, and that the giving of our body is helping that garden in Lama Yeshe's garden, that her body is helping grow those plants. That's the giving of the body, right? There are just as many really beautiful things that we can do with our body as there can be things that are not beautiful. And so
Mhm.
let's put please know that there are so many people saying, may the thought of giving a body in a way that could be harmful not be something that crosses your mind, but may there be a consideration that your hands can give art, that your heart body can give love, that our mouth body can give the speech of good words and generosity. There are so many parts of our body that can give, that don't refer to something negative.
Mhm.
So I just want to allow us to, open up the idea of allowing that to be an okay thing to give of our body, and to consider, is it pure? Is
Mhm.
what I'm doing pure?
Mhm. Okay.
So thank you for this time together on this really big, exciting, I love this topic, right? I think all of us have this really innate want to give, and this massive amount of generosity in us, knowing each other. So may we be wise in our generosity. Okay. I want to ask for forgiveness if anything that I said tonight offended somebody, came out wrong, brought up a feeling that wasn't warm and fuzzy and together in human connection. If you feel like there's anything that you spoke about tonight that didn't feel like that, please can just let it go. You're completely forgiven on my part from anything, from the thought, the speech, the action, anything. It's all forgiven, gone. And may we dedicate the time that we kind of talk about this stuff and put the parts in and come together on it to those people who may not know how to give, the people that may not be capable, to the people that might be too hurt to know it's safe. May we dedicate the merit of what we did together to them. And may all wars end. May wars with each other end. May wars with our own mind and our own self end. May wars with families end, and neighbors end, and different places with borders end. And may we all feel happiness that is long lasting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.